Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special reunion 2020 issue or edition or episode or whatever we want to call it. Video, there's going to be videos on this, all kinds of good stuff. But today I have on John Fagerholm, who I am welcoming back to the show, who's also an author with us. He was one of the founding authors of our book series, Money Matters. And John, we haven't spoken in a little bit, it's been too long, probably going on a year maybe, I don't even know.
Maybe not that long. Yeah.
6 months, something too long.
Yeah,
Welcome back to the show, John. Great to catch up with you.
Adam, it's a pleasure to hear your voice again. It's been way too long. We haven't seen each other probably in a good 6 to 8 months.
Oh, man.
And I probably haven't talked to you just that long. I think the last time we saw each other was in that restaurant bar in not Hollywood, but Beverly Hills. So it's been a minute.
So let's, today's topic, I want to get into some business environment in California, what's going on. But first, before we do all that stuff, I want to get, it's been a while since your last episode recorded, probably over a year ago for the recording of the episode. So we got a whole lot of new listeners since then. Let's just start with an overview of how'd you get started in law?
Well, I was an entrepreneur and I kept getting sued, Adam. And so at some point it hit me that, hey, I could, if all I really want is to own my own business, I could own my own law firm. And so I basically just liquidated everything, every other business I had, and then went to law school, and day one out of passing the bar, opened up my law firm and, never looked back since.
Man, and that's good transition. Let's get into your law firm, Metal Law Group. Tell us a little bit more about the business you're doing for your clients.
So we're basically a litigation firm. So there's a commercial side, there's a employment side, there's a corporate side, and basically the majority of our business really is the employment defense side, just simply because so much of the lawsuits in California, and especially in Los Angeles, is employees suing their employers. And because I have the entrepreneurial background and a soft spot for entrepreneurs, of course, and then plus for a litigation firm, it just seemed like the perfect place to be for me.
So I want to switch it up a bit. Let's talk about, because you have a really unique vantage point. Working with from the employer side and as a litigation firm, you see a lot of things. So you have your pulse on everything, so to speak. Let's talk a little bit more about the business environment in California and what's going on there.
Well, talking about having the pulse on things, let me just start by saying, besides the pleasure I get out of helping my clients, I learn a lot because being in the position that I'm in with my clients, I get to see everything. I get to see all the documents. I get to see the decisions as they're made and, so on. And so I really get a good education on different types of businesses and how they're run, but most of all, how decisions are made and what are good decisions and bad decisions. And then, of course, I can use that to also advise other clients. Now, all that being said, the business environment in California, and especially in LA, I think LA is probably the worst. Maybe San Francisco is slightly worse, but it just is a terrible environment. And I started seeing that probably a decade ago, but then the last, I would say 3 years, it's just gotten to a point where California is just basically running businesses out of town. And you could drive down the 5 freeway and you'll see all kinds of billboards, from cities, from other states saying, hey, come here. We know that you're being treated poorly in California, but we're happy to have you, So that's really the environment right now. It's just over-regulation, nonsensical regulation at that, and then high taxation, and then just continuously creating a litigious environment, so it makes it easy to get sued and very difficult to even avoid being sued. So with all of that, anyone that that doesn't have a services industry where they're required to be here are at least thinking about it. And it seems to be that the two top places are Las Vegas and several cities in Texas. That's where I see people going. In fact, I got my bar in Texas because of that, because so many of my clients were just packing up and heading to Texas. Yeah.
Wow. And what makes and I don't want to assume that everybody listening kind of has that backstory. And I know there's people listening that have kind of considered other areas in terms of starting their business. What's making some of these other markets more attractive than California right now? I'm just curious.
Well, so for example, like I said, most of my clients that are moving into Texas. So I know more about Texas than I do about other ones. First of all, the taxation. So they promote themselves as a business-friendly environment, and not only is the taxation much lower, the cost to build anything is very cheap without a bunch of red tape. It's interesting. I was watching this interview, and it wasn't one of my clients, but he was talking about this guy was being interviewed, and he was talking about why he moved to Texas. He built a very large recycling center. I can't remember what city it was in Texas that he built it, and it took him 3 years to do it. And he said one day was the permitting, and the rest of the time was just building the facility. That's the difference. So he has another one in Central California.
A big recycling facility? Are you kidding me? One day was the permit, and the 3 years, you just blew my mind. I get it. That makes sense. Go ahead, please.
But I'm really going to blow your mind now. He said he picked Texas because he was trying to build a recycling center in California, and he had already bought the land for it. And he's still going through the permitting process, and it's been 18 years. That's
18 years?
18 years, right? So there's lots going on, besides the taxation, the environment, it's a very pro-employer state. I mean, the minimum wage is $7.25, which is the federal level. And I know what people are going to say, oh, that's not a living wage. But you know what? People with that wage in Texas aren't doing jobs that pay $7.25. When you go to a fast food place in Texas, it's not a 40-year-old man with 4 kids working there. It's a teenager. So it makes sense. The job growth there is humongous. All the middle-class jobs are moving there. It's just a completely different environment to be in. The overregulation, just the nonsensical lawsuits. It just doesn't make sense. And one thing they have that is particularly interesting to Northern California businesses is they have their own electricity grid. There's 3 grids, the one on the East Coast, the one on the West Coast, and Texas. And so Northern California is having problems with all the fires and DWP cutting electricity and all the madness is going up there. And Texas is saying, hey, come here. We have an abundance of cheap electricity, an abundance of land where you can build whatever you want, and a very easy permitting process, and a huge educated labor force. That isn't going to break your back. And so that's really it. Oh, and we're not going to overtax you. Another interesting thing I read about Texas that I honestly didn't know was that they're the only state that doesn't require workers' comp. Do you know what workers' comp in California does to businesses? I mean, that puts a lot of businesses out of business. And here you have a state saying, yeah, we don't require workers' comp. Come here. Just a whole different mentality of how things should be.
Wow. Well, now I get why you're saying what the business environment is and running business owners out of here. That's just a terrible thing. Obviously, we both live here, so we like to keep people here and all that good stuff. But it makes sense when you do it, when you make an argument like that. So do you think? And again, this isn't asking you your crystal ball or anything like that, but do you think things change here anytime soon? I mean, you predicted this a long time ago.
Yeah. And you and I have been talking about this for a couple of years now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the ideology has to change. So the problem with California is that the leadership has an ideology that business is bad. and that you have to take everybody. You have to take the top person, you have to take the bottom person, and you have to somehow cram them together so they're at the same level. But that's not how things work. That's not how life works. There are productive people, there are unproductive people, and then there's people all the way in between, and some people, some people are smarter, some people are more motivated, some people are harder workers. Who knows? Who knows what makes people productive and what makes people non-productive? But if you take from the productive people and then you just give it for free to the non-productive people, well, guess what happens? The productive people take their production and they move it somewhere else where it's appreciated. And that's just until they change that ideology that everybody is the same and should be treated the same, it's not going to, things aren't going to turn around. And, honestly, there's people that don't want to be productive. There's people that are happy living a simple life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can't steal other people's labor. You can't go to someone who decides, hey, I'm dropping out of the workforce to create a business and employ 100 people. You can't steal his labor and give it to someone else who says that's not what they want. They don't want to work hard. It's kind of like the Uber issue. California in its wisdom has said, hey, Uber drivers should be employees. And there's a ton of Uber drivers are saying, we don't want to be employees. We like the freedom. We like the fact that we can decide when to work, how we work, not work or work, what we get paid depending on when we drive. So it's nonsense to think that an Uber driver is the same as a person working in a factory. And that's the mentality that everybody and everything is the same and we should treat them all the same. It just doesn't work.
No, that's awesome. So, John, if somebody's listening to this and they want more information on Metal Law Group or to connect with you, what's the best route for them to reach out?
I have a website that I like to use, and it's easy to remember because Metal Law Group is difficult. We have a Metal Law Group site also, but it's called defendmybiz.com, and the biz is with a Z. And that's a very easy one to remember, and all my information is there.
Fantastic. Well, John, we're definitely going to get you back on the show later in the year because I could talk to you all day long, and I have some more questions that I'm going to ask you that I want the listeners to benefit from for the conversation also. So that being said, we're definitely dragging you back here. Not going to let it go this long next time.
I appreciate that.
Thanks again for coming on the show. Do appreciate that. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just launched that this year, Money Matters Top Tips, and give us some comments on the videos on YouTube, and let us know what your thoughts are about the state and business in California. And thanks again for coming on the show, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Have a good one.